it's interesting to think about a world where we don't have direct access to reality, as Hoffman argues. And maybe, I don't know if you can comment, I don't know if you're familiar with Ayn Rand's work and her whole philosophy of objectivism, where her whole contention is that, we do have access. I don't want to misstate it, but at least she would claim that it's not useful, or I think she would probably say it's not correct to argue that we don't have access to reality. We have, hence objectivism, we have direct access to reality. That's the only thing we can reason about. And the only way to live life morally is to reason through everything, starting with the axioms of reality, which we do have direct access to.
Right.
Do you have thoughts about her work? Or
I am slightly ashamed to say I have not read Ayn Rand yet. So she is high on my list and she's been recommended a number of times. But so I don't know a lot specifically about her philosophy or objectivism, but to me, it resonates closely with what the American pragmatist commented on truth. And they distinguished what you could say is absolute truth, which is at the bottom of reality, whether it's, Mr. Wolfram's mathematical formulas or value, whatever it may be. It's something ineffable, something beyond the reach of epistemology, perhaps even. And maybe that's why religion just sort of points to it, right? It's trying to use, I think Joseph Campbell said something like, religion is using stories to point towards the same transcendental mystery we all experience but cannot articulate. Mm-hmm. So something like the artist uses lies to point to the truth, something like that, that kind of thing.
That's really good.
But the American pragmatist said that because at the end of the day, this is all about, when we say truth, we need something that is socially close to social consensus and is not shakeable by political action. So that's what physics and mathematics are. It's an unshakable point of reference, I guess you might say. So the American pragmatists defined truth as the end of inquiry. And in markets, we could say that the market itself is a forum that generates truth. We call this pragmatic truth to separate pure objective truth that we can't even talk about without polluting it versus pragmatic truth, which is something that's useful. So the example here would be, if I give you a map and you're trying to go from your house to the local brisket restaurant, and the map gets you from your house to the brisket restaurant, is that because the map is true, or is that because the map is useful? Right? They're very hard to disentangle when you're just looking at it pragmatically. And in markets, I argue, generate three forms of pragmatic truth. One is the price. So this is the collective subjective demand and purchasing power of humanity running up against the objective supply of capital and resources in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So there's demand overlaid on supply. The result of that is the price. So that is the most truthful exchange ratio, which is the closest approximation to the value of any good in the marketplace. So it gives us a data point on which we can operate. It's compressing all known market realities down into a single actionable number. Based on the price of bread or copper, whether you want to buy more of it, you want to abstain from buying it, or maybe you want to try and find substitutes. And you can think of that price signal, it's like an economic nerve signal that's coordinating human action across time. So if we're one socioeconomic superorganism or collective, that the price signal is the nerve. And that's the first form of pragmatic truth that markets generate. The second form would be tools and innovations themselves. So entrepreneurs are experimenting across time. They're trying to satisfy the wants of consumers. Consumers are sovereign in the marketplace. Whatever the consumer wants, the consumer gets, right? I'm trying to satisfy that. I'm trying to do it at a profit. So I'm trying to take, viewing the existing price signals of goods in the marketplace, I'm trying to assemble those in a way at a cost lower than the final solution I'm delivering to my customer. I'm selling it at a price higher than the productive factors I combine to create it. And in that iterative process, we're constantly discovering new and better ways of solving problems or satisfying wants. So we could say to go out and dig a hole, right? Someone wants a hole dug, that a shovel is going to let you do it much faster per hour than you would with your bare hands. So what is the pragmatic truth of digging holes? It's a shovel, right? It's the best way we know how to solve any particular problem based on the existing treasury of knowledge. So every tool, again, we're back to ideas being fundamental. The shovel itself is just a knowledge structure. We've figured out a way to create this particular implement, and then we've indexed the raw materials we found in nature to this knowledge structure to create a shovel, which allows us to better satisfy human wants, faster, cheaper, better, effectively.
I'm trying to generalize. You're blowing my mind a little bit here. I'm trying to generalize the idea of tool to how to think about it, because I keep just, when you say tool, I keep imagining different tool, like specific instantiations of a tool. I'm trying to see, so the price is a pragmatic truth that's communicating value in this network.
Subjective demands against objective supply.
Subjective.
So it's an economic democracy.
Supply. Got it. So that's the demand supply. And then the tools are the ways of extracting or solving problems is the more general kind of
or satisfying wants.
Satisfying wants.
Yeah.
So wants are somehow that's part of the supply and the demand.
And wants are back to value, right? Because everything someone wants, they're expressing their value.
Okay. Yeah. So the shovel is a pragmatic truth. The shovel is truth. It feels like a good book title. Okay. Sorry. So what other what is the
and
third?
Then the third one I would argue is virtue, actually.
Oh, wow.
And another way to maybe think about this is competitive competency, but it's also cooperative competency. So we're learning over time what characteristics, what patterns of action, what mindsets, what mental tools, what heuristics are most useful to satisfying customer wants. So I think that over time becomes sharpened into virtue, right? Like we know it's best to be honest, because if you lie, it's very energy inefficient, right? You're creating this little fork of reality. And then if someone else asks you about that lie again, you have to put another layer of lies on top of it. Where if you just tell the truth, you're just recollecting what happened. Yeah. And so that sort of keeps, again, when we're talking about delaying volatility, right? If you lie, you're delaying short-term volatility, but you're increasing long-term volatility.
What about murder? I haven't been able to figure out why murder is bad, because I just keep wanting to murder people. And I've murdered many.
You should see someone for that.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get an interview with Vladimir Putin. So that's fascinating. Virtue in this market with the supplies and demands, and there's the tools, which is also a pragmatic truth, and there's virtue. It's a pragmatic truth.
Yeah, and if we interfere with that free market process, again, if we overstep, which this maybe ties into murder, if you start to be coercive against life, liberty, or property, so if you're forcibly taking someone's life, you're breaking down the trust in that market that generates these pragmatic truths. If you forcibly infringe on someone's liberty, right, for any reason other than them originally breaking or infringing upon life, liberty, or property, then that's not going to work either. And then if you violate private property rights, if you steal property from others, you're breaking down the trust that the intersubjective fabric of money and markets and the rule of law, all of these useful fictions are meant to preserve. You're corrupting it and breaking it down.
It's kind of interesting to think about the market as helping evolve the virtues. Mm-hmm. It's sharpened into virtues. And then these virtues can then go onto motivational posters or like in books that we all agree on, and then eventually take for granted as if they were somehow fundamental to human nature. But they're not perhaps fundamental. They're just pragmatic truths.
Yeah, it's another way to consider competition itself is that it is a discovery process. So, entrepreneurs are competing with one another, and they're trying to best satisfy consumer wants at the lowest possible price. So they're placing bets of time, energy, and capital on themselves, on their idea, their business plan. And then the market decides, right? The consensus of market actors decide which one was better. One lives, one dies. So competition itself is helping us get closer to truth, to pragmatic truth. So we're discovering what is the right price for this asset. And that price, by the way, is derived, again, in the sense of data compression. Everyone in the world can see that price. Everyone in the world can then put their skin in the game by choosing to buy or sell or short or go long or do any number of financial actions on that price. And that information is then propagated back out to everyone else. So it's this feedback loop between market actor and price that makes it so useful. And that's what carries us. It's these collisions of interest that carry us. It removes the unuseful aspects of ourselves or of our tools or of a price and reveals pragmatic truth to us.